Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis's haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy with a low of 33, then Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 41. Discover macarons like you've never tasted before at Nicolette's Macarons. Pick up a box of elegant French macarons conveniently located off Highway 169 and 36th Avenue in Plymouth. Perfect for gifts, corporate events, or just for yourself. Stop in or order online at nicolettesmacarons.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story, this is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. First off, before we get any further, I just want to give a huge thank you to Becky and Pays over at the Anderson House. This weekend, we just did the Para Fair. I hope everyone had a chance to listen to our show Friday night. It was live from the Anderson House. It was so much fun. A lot of people were excited there. We got to hear about some great teams, great practitioners, and also about the event itself. I had so much fun. Becky and Pays took very good care of us, and just a lot of great people there. A lot of great people came out there. I'm hoping we're going to do it again next year, but I really wanted to start off by thanking everybody for just a great week. And, you know, funny enough, I didn't actually get a chance to investigate. We were just having so much fun, talking and swapping stories and talking shop, I guess you could say. That was really cool, though I do know that Johnny Vortex and King Sister Paranormal today, or I should say last night, they stayed an extra night and they really had at it. So I hope that they were able to get some cool stuff out of it. Now, today, we're going to be picking up from a show that we were going to do back in December, and I was under the weather, and I'm very happy. For some reason, it feels really just right to do this now. And one of my favorite people to have on the program is Kaedrich Olsen, and we have talked about so many subjects over the past, I would say 3 years, 4 years, that you would think that we'd have nothing more to talk about. But you would be wrong. And there's always going to be stuff to talk about. And it comes across so easily when Kaedrich talks about it. He discusses it. He talks about what he's doing. And he talks about how we can help ourselves and how he can help us as well. And these are always great conversations. So tonight we're going to be talking with Spiritual Guide Kaedrich Olsen. We're going to be talking about a new book that is free to download from his site. We're going to talk all about that, called Coexisting with the Paranormal. Kaedrich, welcome to GhostBox Radio. How are you tonight?
Hey, Greg, it's great to see you again. I'm glad to be here. I'm doing great. It's a good night tonight.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's going to be a great year. Fire Horse, it's a one number. How can it not be a good year with all of that going on?
I'm thinking the same thing. And so far, everything that I have been, personally speaking, everything I've been doing and everything I've been experiencing really feels to me like it is going to be a really good year for me personally. And I'm super excited about that. Now, I would like to talk a little bit. One of the reasons, I brought you back. I mean, there's always a good reason to bring you back, but one was going over to Kaedrich.com. That's Kaedrich.com. That I noticed that you had put together a new book called Coexisting with the Paranormal, and it's free on your website. I've downloaded it myself. Can we talk a little bit about it? What's the book about?
Absolutely. The book is about coexisting with the paranormal.
Oh, is it now? Okay. Well, I had no idea. So that's great.
Now in the book, I talk about the 10 rules I have for interacting with the paranormal, 5 different ways of protecting yourself, and 3 different forms of communication. So it's all about getting to understand your natural abilities, your natural place as a spiritual being. We're spiritual and physical beings. The world around us is spiritual and physical. So why not learn to coexist with it? Why not learn to coexist with you as a whole being and coming to understanding your spiritual abilities and your own spiritual side, which is just as active and alive as your physical body is.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And, at first I was kind of wondering which direction you're going. I mean, because coexisting with the paranormal, I feel like can be a lot of different things. But I mean, the way that you described it just now is very much kind of your whole approach to all of this, really. It's very much, if you don't mind me saying so, very much on brand. You know what I mean? And that's good. I don't know. I think, one of the questions I have when you put it that way, do you think that as a paranormal investigator, as I am, is that different technically? Would you consider that not necessarily coexisting with the paranormal? Because in some ways it's almost, an investigator looks at the paranormal as something to be studied, right? Though we also do interact with it very much so, but I think some investigators more than others. What are your thoughts on that?
I think as investigating paranormal sites, of course you want the empirical data.
Yeah.
Of course you want repeatable results so that you can present the evidence and say, here is something within the framework that we understand.
Yeah.
At the same time, interacting with other paranormal investigators, what really kind of set me off on the path of teaching my experience with the paranormal and teaching people how to exist with the paranormal came from a seance when there was some paranormal investigators attending there. And they went up after the seance and asked the presenter, said, hey, here's a problem we're having. It was basically an attachment. The guy had investigated a mass gravesite in New Orleans and picked up a spirit. It was actually a little boy. It wasn't malevolent. It wasn't a problem. But wherever he went, Billy showed up. I think his name was Billy, and even showed up in the seance there. That he brought some of the equipment with him, and like the GhostBox Radio, like the GhostBox. And Billy was coming through. It was like a little boy's voice. And this guy is like, hey, everywhere I go, this guy is showing up. What do I do about it? And I picked up and I'm like, oh, you're a very compassionate person. Of course you want to help out. And this little kid was lost, trying to figure out where to go, and you want to help out. So he's kind of hanging out thinking this is safe. This is great. But as an investigator, that was muddying the data.
Yeah.
Because imagine we go to a place that's really not active. It's got all the gear going, and Billy shows up and he starts making all the gear go off. Now you're getting false reads. Now you're getting bad data because of the attachment going on. And plus, it's sort of an energy drain. no matter what. It's still going to be an energy drain, and Billy doesn't need to be sticking around. So we helped Billy leave. We helped clear the attachment. Didn't have any problems anymore. No more muddying the data. So from that experience, I learned, I put together a course originally to help paranormal investigators stay safe on an investigation, like the things that they can do to avoid getting attachments, the things they can do to protect themselves, the things that they can do to keep ensuring that they get good data without messing it up, because every paranormal experience is a co-creative process. You can't remove the observer from the equation. And this just kind of built on, and I'm like realizing, oh, all these other things that I know that I've experienced myself, I need to be teaching and helping people out. So in a very real sense, learning to coexist with the paranormal as I do, like developing your abilities, learning to communicate, learning the dynamics of energy to set up protections and interactions, will actually help out investigators so that they can keep their data clean, so that they can keep themselves safe, so that they don't go home with something that's going to mess with the family and the house, so that it is a nice, solid, contained experience right there, right then and there.
Let's use Billy as an example here. Is it possible that spirits such as Billy can kind of see what you are, perhaps maybe even a little bit before you can? And my example to that is, Billy is hanging around with the investigator because, as you said, this investigator is a very compassionate person. And I'm not saying this investigator never knew he was compassionate, you know what I mean? But I mean that there are parts that a spirit might kind of glom on about a person that person may not think are maybe the stronger attributes, but the spirit is kind of seeing it perhaps before the individual is actually maybe realizing that, if that makes any sense.
It makes complete sense, and it happens more often than you may realize. Like, for example, the first rule, and this is one I say everywhere, tell everybody: similarities attract and perpetuate.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be some commonality. So when we get an attachment, even if it's a low-level bottom feeder or something more aggressive, let's put it that way, there has to be something that I call an energetic agreement. Now, agreement's not the best word, but it's the word that we have in the English language to use.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is there's a homogeneous energy source within the person. And that spirit detects that and it goes, ooh, yummy, I want that. So it attaches to the person, and then it starts to feedback that same kind of energy to the person so that they're producing more of that energy, so that it creates this nice little feeding cycle for that parasitic entity. And a lot of times it's shadows, things that are unseen by us, things that are unresolved. That's why I do a lot of shadow work too. And shadows are the things that we stuff down deep, dark places within inside that we don't want to acknowledge, that we don't want to recognize, that we don't even want to look at ourselves. Sometimes there are gifts. Sometimes there are talents that we were told were bad and awful for having. A lot of times they're the things we're ashamed of or afraid of about ourselves. And this thing will glom onto that, attach to it. And I will tell people all the time, clearing an attachment's easy. Anybody can do it. I teach people to do it all the time. But we got to find out why it's there in the first place. What caused it to happen? And this is why people, when they get an attachment clearing, that attachment comes back or they get another one, is because they haven't resolved that inner work. And that's what the spirits are picking up on. They're picking up on that similar energy, and they're like, ooh, yeah. And then they start to perpetuate that similar energy, unfortunately, to the detriment of the person that they're feeding off of, usually, not always, but usually to that detriment. And so that's why I take a multi-pronged approach. Yes, we clear the energy. Yes, we set sacred space. We do sanctuary work, but then we do the inner work. Like, why? Why did you agree to? And I know it's not conscious agreement, but right. Why did some part of you agree to have this attachment? Why did it feel it deserved that? Why did it feel it wanted that? And everybody is vulnerable to this. I've had attachments to myself too, where I've had to go back and go, oh, crud, what was that all about? Clear the thing out, go do my inner work. I'm like, oh, okay, there we go. That's what the lesson was from this one. So everybody has that possibility. That's just the natural order of the spiritual realms. Things attach. It's just how it works.
Just how it works. Our guest tonight is Kaedrich Olsen. We're talking about his new book that is available free on the site. Go to kaedrich.com. Coexisting with the Paranormal. I want to go to a comment here, which, if just I would like to ask the person who wrote this I'd like her to explain it a little bit more so I understand maybe a little bit better. Christine says, these so-called paranormal people need to stop and let them be. It causes havoc. And on the face value, I think I understand, but I'd like to get a little bit more of where you're coming from with that, Christine, if you don't mind, because I mean, I think that's to me that feels very much a blanket sort of statement, because I don't think that's always the case with all investigators. But Kaedrich, what are your thoughts on this?
Respect is an important part of this. For example, I'm wondering, and I'm just going to guess at what she might be meaning by this, and I'm definitely looking forward to some deeper input onto that one. But let's say it's like Pennhurst, right? There's a lot of people that show up at Pennhurst, and there was a lot of tragedy that happened, a lot of horrible things. Yeah. There are definitely revenants there, spirits stuck there. And what if the people going there are just stirring it up? Because a lot of people go in with a fear-based mentality, and they're getting scared, and they're feeding that fear energy into there, and it's kind of riling things up. Another example is somebody recently even asked me, since I live in Colorado, asked me if I ever tried to get in contact with JonBenet Ramsey. And to me, I'm like, no, I don't have a need to. Maybe if a family member personally came to me and we had a private one-on-one session and said, hey, I need to resolve something, maybe. But I wouldn't do it as, like, oh, here's the latest celebrity that died. Let's go reach out or let's go to their house and let's go. Yeah. So to me, that's sort of a level of respect, but I don't know about what she quite means by riling them up. I'm curious about that too.
And Christine, please, I hope that you write to, because I think we're intrigued by your statement. And all viewpoints are welcome here. But don't get me started either on what you just said, Kaedrich, because you're absolutely right, and that's something that really bothers me as well. Is there's people who really want to go to the scary locations because they see it on the shows and stuff. I think about also like Villisca Murder House, and I've been there a couple times, but over time you realize that this is a place that is more like people trying to use it as conjuring and having their own agenda with it, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And I do have a problem with that. And now Christine did react. She did give a more of an explanation to it. And what I think I'd like to do, Christine, if you wouldn't mind holding on, I'd like to go ahead, take our first break, get that going here. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Christine's comments and the new one she added, and keep our conversation going with Kaedrich Olsen about coexisting with the paranormal. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. Kick off the new year with And welcome back to GhostBox Radio. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Tonight, our guest is Spiritual Guide Kaedrich Olsen. We're just talking about a new book that he has made available on his website, Coexisting with the Paranormal. And this is a great opportunity. It's a great book. Once again, it's free. We're going to get more directly into the book. But we did have a conversation about some stuff that Christine had put in a post, and we asked if she could elaborate a little bit on it, and she has, and it makes a lot more sense, and I appreciate it, Christine. Christine says, these people are ghost chasers and get fame regarding this. They have secondary gains and may disrespect the souls that have passed, getting them to react. And if I may, Kaedrich, speaking as a paranormal investigator, I just would like to ask, though, that it's not all paranormal investigators that are like this, and I'm not sure if that's the intention or not, and that's one way or the other is fine. And she goes on to say, it's not right. These people passed in most traumatic ways. Their peace is not respected. Why put them in the spotlight and not let them rest in peace and move on to the light? And I mean, generally speaking, personally, I would agree with that, Kaedrich.
Yep, absolutely. You know, if they're there, they're stuck, they're going through their things, they're going through their issues. And what I've seen on some of the paranormal investigator shows, and I can't watch them because they just make me groan.
No.
You know, they're being aggressive. They're, show yourself, come out. They're saying sometimes very disrespectful things to try to get a rise. And then any bump, creak, or pop, they jump up and they scream. And then there's the spooky face that comes up on the camera and all the spooky noises. And it just makes me roll my eyes. And I'm like, that's not what this is about. I agree. It's like, let's not exploit their plight to get ratings by stirring up the fear. It drives me nuts because the paranormal is not a scary thing. It never really was, but it somehow is now.
And I think we've talked about this before. I mean, this, and I will quote my friend Shar, who always says this. What's the difference between the metaphysical and paranormal? Nothing. But that's what like the networks and stuff do, and and for some reason, everyone who's doing the same thing, connecting to a spirit, for a mediumship, networks make it sound like, well, that's just doing a show on the Long Island medium, who is just, it's more like a kind of a beautiful thing, but somehow using the word paranormal means that you have to go into haunted places and also try to connect with evil. It doesn't make sense. And we have a generation of people in the paranormal, and once again, not all people, but we have a generation of people who have grown up watching these paranormal shows and think that this is the way to do it.
Absolutely. I will say it all the time that most people's experience with the paranormal comes from the horror shows, the TV shows, the movie shows, and the paranormal investigator shows. And quite often they'll say they've never had a paranormal experience. because they're not seeing something fly across the room. They're not hearing banging on the walls or the disembodied voices. And then the other side are the people saying, well, this is all evil. You know, the Ouija board's a portal to demons coming to get you, that grandma's not really visiting you, it's a demon. And there's a lot of fear-based narratives out there because, you know, come on, fear sells. You know, it will get you the ratings. It'll get you people watching the commercials. And it'll get you the clout on TikTok.
Absolutely. And, you know, and as Christine had said in another comment about, you know, that there's fame mongers, you know, that people are looking in, you know, the first time I met you was at that horrible Las Vegas convention. And I just, you know, I've talked to other people about this, and I never have a good thing to say about it, apart from meeting great people like you and Moon Girl and a number of people. But, you know, these things are often a way to kind of, you know, you see a lot of people there who are vying for just a little bit of attention, and it's sad in a lot of ways, because the event I was at this last weekend, we were all just having conversations about what we do and what we've experienced or whatever, and it wasn't anyone trying to one up each other. But for some reason, especially when you get celebrities involved at them, it just feels like everyone's gonna want to try to impress somebody, I guess. And it's just, I'm personally over it. I really am.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, I grew up with this. I've been around this my entire life. It is a natural part of our world. It's a natural part of existence. And I get why people are doing that. But at the same time, it's like turning so many people off to their natural state of being, to the natural world that's all around them, something that our ancestors, no matter what culture we're in, no matter what part of the world our ancestors are from, they all knew how to exist with these unseen beings. They knew how to exist with these energies. And it's just been a natural part of humanity until literally the past 100 years, less than 100 years, I think, that it's become something so forbidden, something so scary and awful. And it's driving a wedge into the natural world, and it's driving a wedge into what it means to naturally be a human being.
Absolutely. Now, Christine also says sensationalism. I couldn't agree more. We're talking tonight with Kaedrich Olsen, Spiritual Guide, talking about his new book, Coexisting with the Paranormal, over on Kaedrich.com. How do you get the book now?
Just go to the website, Kaedrich.com. Can't miss it. It's at the top of the page. Just pop in your email address and I'll give it to you. I'll even give you the opportunity to get the audiobook version of it. I sat with a microphone and my super sexy, awesome voice. You will hear that, and it'll help kind of lull you into a bit of a meditative state while you're reading it, so it sinks in even deeper into the subconscious mind while you're listening.
I'm going to tell you how to coexist with the paranormal today. Was it something like that?
What's that?
See, my voice was so sultry that you didn't even hear. I guess I was auditioning to do like the next one for you. It's like,
oh, there you go.
Coexisting with the Paranormal by Kaedrich Olsen. How's that?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, no. Okay, so that was embarrassing. But now, did you have, it says 51 pages with personal accounts, 10 rules, 5 protections, and 3 communication tools. Can you share any personal accounts with us?
Oh, wow. Lots of them. That's one of the funny things is I've got so many of my own and so many with the clients I've seen over the years that the brain kind of goes into a blank because it's a full box. Give me an example of something you'd like to know about, and I'll tell you something.
Well, I mean, I maybe let's start with, did you run into maybe even early in your time with paranormal of perhaps something that you didn't understand, and maybe at first it appeared to be something that, my word, like malevolent, or because you didn't understand it, maybe bad, and it turns it around that once you got understanding, once you understood better, that it maybe wasn't that at all.
Absolutely. For example, like living in my parents' basement, that was where my bedroom was downstairs
Sure.
by myself, the whole basement. And the house was very haunted. Like TV dials would change, radios turn on, things like that. And I was sensitive. So I was aware. I could feel the energies, I could feel the spirits, but I didn't know what to do about it. And, even at a young age, I was watching horror movies. I unfortunately saw The Exorcist at 7 years old, which scared the hell out of me.
Yeah, me too.
But I always watched those. But I went to the spiritualist church with my parents, which included trance mediumship and a seance every Saturday night. And I was having a hard time reconciling the scary movies that were so convincing to a little kid with what was going on around me. So it was scary sometimes being by myself in the basement, hearing the things, feeling the things, laying down in bed and you could feel a hand touch you, or you could feel your hair being played with, you could hear things moving around. And trying to come to terms with that was so difficult. But as things progressed, I learned how to listen in a sense, because spirits don't talk the way we talk.
Yeah.
They speak in energy, they speak in feeling. And learning to listen and tune in, I was really starting to pick up these messages of like, hey, you're okay. This is all good. This is, nothing negative. And they eventually, what I called the whispers, they're my guides. I call them the whispers because they're so subtle, so quiet. Taught me how to shift energies in the room, how to put up boundaries, how to communicate with spirits, and how to understand. And that's the key part, tuning into the feeling of what this spirit is and getting a better sense of that. And that really calmed my nerves quite a bit. That helped to dissolve the dichotomy I was facing of like, why is everybody saying these are scary? Why do I hear scary stories at school? Why are there all these scary movies about the Amityville Horror? That scared the heck out of me too. And I'm like, I'm living in a haunted house. Is this going to happen to me?
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it never did. It was just peaceful. It was quiet. It was calm. It was just like, oh, okay. So it took a while of direct firsthand experience, working through trial and error, getting through my crud and coming to terms with it, which is why I love teaching people now, because you don't have to go through all those mistakes. You don't have to go through all that crud that I went through. I work with grown-ups, but I share with them the things that they can teach their kids, so their kids don't have to go through what I went through. So they can go right off the bat, here's what you do, and here are the games that you make with a kid so that you guys can have fun interacting with it. And it dispels that fear. And we talk about how to negotiate the fear-based narratives that are out there and come to terms with those so that nobody else has to go through what I went through trying to come to terms with this.
Absolutely. Joshua actually brings up a really good point. I think he says, first of all, in another comment, he says, thank you for the book. But here he says, horror movies lower the vibrational level. It's not entertaining to me. It's sick. I personally find that, I think in healthy doses, this stuff, you can, I don't believe that you shouldn't watch them, but we had a situation with someone in our class, because Shara and I teach a paranormal class, and this person was just low. Their vibration was just low, and they didn't understand why and whatever. And it turned out that they would watch a lot of like true crime documentaries, a lot of stuff about serial killers, and they would watch it nightly before bed, or fall asleep to it or something. And there's something to that, right? Where you're feeding it into yourself. You're feeding that energy back into yourself, aren't you?
Depends on how you approach it. So, for example, the Insidious movies, they're about like a child who is a natural astral projector and got into trouble when he was thinking he was dreaming, but then he went too far. And when he went too far, somebody was able to snatch his soul. And because they captured his soul, they're now trying to get into his body. These spirits are trying to get into his body and possess him and take over. And the reason why it's important for people like us to watch those things is so that we become aware of the narrative that's out there.
Yeah.
Because out-of-body experience is completely natural. It's actually easier to do than a lot of the books say it is to do. You just do it naturally. You just get out, and there's no such thing as going too far. There's no way of getting lost because you are your body, and there's no time or space in the spirit world. There's no such thing as too far. There's no way anything can steal your soul and prevent it from coming back. And there's no way that while you're gone, something can come in and get you. So it's important, I think, for us to see those movies, to be aware of those narratives that are being put out there, because people are believing those as the facts. This is how it really works.
Yeah.
And now we can come in and say, great, yes, you saw that movie. Look at it as entertainment value. And it's about as real as, I don't know, Star Wars or Star Trek, which I love. I love those movies. But there's no truth to it. And so we can go in and start working to dispel those narratives. So it depends on how we watch it. And there are times where I will watch shows, I will watch movies that have a counter narrative to what I think and what I agree with, just so that I can be aware of the information that's out there, because outside of the paranormal stuff, I also do sacred masculinity work. I work with a lot of men to help them connect with sacred archetypes so they can dispel some of the masculine beliefs that are out there. And so it's important for me to catch some of these movies and the things that are going on in the movies and the documentaries so that I can see those narratives that are out there. So if somebody comes to me and says, yeah, but what about that? I have a way of talking about it and reacting to it, and I can talk intelligently about it. So I think it depends on how we look at that and how we view that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes sense. Joshua just follows up. I already know I don't need to watch graphic violence. And yes, souls can be stolen, and I'm not a religious person. Well, I certainly will agree with I don't need to watch graphic violence. And I mean, that's per person, right? I mean, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to do what's in what you're comfortable with as well, because, the way that you're talking about it, Kaedrich, I think that you're absolutely spot on with, that you also, especially in the work that you do, you kind of need to see, if you will, what the spiritual trends are, what people, like you said, what people are watching and experiencing and stuff like that. So makes sense to me.
Absolutely. I mean, here's soapbox time, Ed and Lorraine Warren. I do applaud that they helped to bring some of this paranormal awareness to the public in the 70s and 80s, but I don't like the way that they did it. The Annabelle stuff, the Conjuring stuff, the Amityville Horror. Of course, the Amityville Horror was a complete hoax.
Yeah.
All the way around, but everything that they had was fear-based narratives because they were working really with the Catholic Church that tells everybody that this is all demonic anyway. And so everything that they encountered was demonic, even though it's really not. They just made it as demonic, and they convinced everybody it was demonic. And now these movies come out portraying Ed and Lorraine Warren as like heroes, which I'm not surprised by, but they're still continuing that fear-based narrative that everything is demonic and you can only have one solution to all of these problems. And it's like, oh, no. We got to be aware of that so that we can really dispel it and like tell people this is just as natural as going down to the park and hanging out with the squirrels and watching the ducks swim in the park, but you don't want to mess with a squirrel because a squirrel could bite you, just like you don't want to mess with another person or a spirit, in a disrespectful way, because people are people. They'll come back and they'll think, hey, quit messing with me.
Absolutely. That gives me some questions I want to ask, but I also have Stacy. We have her in the lineup. We're going to ask her a question, but I want to get to another break here real fast. There's a lot to talk about here, and I love this conversation. We have Kaedrich Olsen. We're talking about coexisting with the paranormal. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We're going to have Psychic Medium, Refined Divine with us. We are going to be talking about manifesting in 2026. That's going to be a great conversation. I'm looking forward to that. On Wednesday, we're going to have author David L. Sloan join us. We're going to be talking about his newest book that just came out in November, not about Robert the Doll, but about how Key West killed JFK. It's a great book. It's a great story. We talked about it today, and he has brought some new information to light just for his own research on the book that may actually shed some light on the bigger picture of the assassination in Dallas. You're going to have to tune in Wednesday and find out. Thursday, we're doing a replay with Daryl Marston talking about The Horrors of the House of Wills, which is a book that he had written back in 2023. And then, of course, as always, Casual Friday. So please make sure that you enjoy that conversation. Tonight, we are talking with Spiritual Guide Kaedrich Olsen. We're talking about coexisting with the paranormal. I've been having a great time with this conversation. Now, Kaedrich, I also have Stacy who put in the comments, why do you think that most people's first reaction to the paranormal is fear when most interactions with spirits are benign or peaceful?
Well, there's a couple good reasons for that. There's, of course, the first that we talked about, the programming, the social programming that we've gotten through the movies, the TV shows, the churches, people talking of ghost stories. They're kind of fun. But at the same time, it is a little startling. To this day, if I see an apparition or if I see a movement of energy, it's a little startling. It's just like, what's going on? I mean, it's the same equivalent. Let's say you're hanging out in your living room, watching TV, reading a book, just chilling out by yourself, and your good friend, your best friend, walks into the front door quietly and comes into the room and says, "Hi, how are you?" That's a little startling.
Yeah.
And now let's extend that further. If a spirit comes into the room, says, "Hey, how are you?" You don't know who it is. You don't know what's going on. You don't have any training. You don't have any experience. It's just like, what is this? Get out of here. You're freaking me out. So, it is natural to be a little startled by it, but I don't know. It's just, I'd say mostly it's the social programming that we've gotten for all the TV shows and horror movies.
I think that's a great question, Stacy, and one that I actually feel like that paranormal investigators might want to ask themselves that before they go into any investigations, to be honest. Like, why do you feel that this should be a fearful interaction? I mean, because it shouldn't be. The difference, of course, could be, not necessarily, but could be, you're going to dark locations, right? But even then, if you go to, like, I went to Ohio State Penitentiary. If I'm going to go there and there's some people who did some not so great things, as an investigator, my first instinct is not to go and be like, do you feel like that you've, suffered enough for your sins or something like that? I'm just going to be like asking questions like, what do you like to drink? What do you like to do? Because I'm not there, no matter where I go, I'm not there to rile up spirit. That's what it really comes down to.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that's always kind of gone in the back of my head is like when I teach seance, and that's really how I do it. When I have seance, it's a 2-hour seance. My wife and I do these together. It's awesome. And every time there's a soul that comes in that needs crossing over. And I've asked the Whispers about this, like, why does this keep happening? And they really told me it's because there's a lot of lost souls. A lot of people don't realize they're dead. And we need more people trained and experienced on how to cross over spirits so that this can happen more often. And so I've wondered, like, if I go to some of these places and there's spirits stuck there and I cross them over, and then all of a sudden it's not haunted anymore. I'll give you sort of an interesting example.
Yeah.
A good friend of mine, Patty, and I were in New Orleans several years ago, and we went to a hotel that was haunted, and we're outside on the street before we could go into the courtyard, and we're like, oh yeah, there's definitely some energy out here. There's definitely some activity because it's all over New Orleans, all over the French Quarter. It's massive. And then we get inside there and we're like, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Where did it go? What happened here? And just kind of feeling around, scoping out the place. I'm like, oh, somebody did some massive clearing and crossing over here. This may have been haunted at one point, but it sure isn't anymore. This is, a pretty clean and clear spot now. I don't even know why they advertise it this way, but it's okay. So I kind of wonder about that myself. And like, I go to these places, will it be haunted after I'm done?
It reminds me of a situation I had a couple years ago with somebody who got mad at myself and Shar because we did a podcast and we, talked about it, if there's spirits that are asking to cross them over. And this person then said, well, hold on a second. You're talking about locations that charge people to go in and do investigations and stuff. That's their way of making money. You can't cross them over. And it's like, okay, now we're talking about keeping spirit back, like it's almost imprisonment, isn't it? I mean, it's
yeah,
that's ridiculous.
That's one of the tricky things. Where do the ethics come in on this one? And I mean, I'm sure nobody could sue you for that. It wouldn't hold up in court. But at the same time, what are the ethics on that? I know where I stand from the ethics of a point of view from the spiritual perspective.
Absolutely.
Let spirit heal, let them go, let them do what they need to do. So in a lot of sense, I'm with you there.
Well, and I also, I believe that there's enough spirits that if you do cross the ones over that want to cross over, either A, they could still come back if they want, or B, other spirits are going to go to the location themselves. I don't, most of the time when you talk about, famous spirits that are haunting a location, those people are long gone.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
not there anymore. People, are yelling in the air for, Lucy, are you there? And it's like, no, Lucy's been gone for quite some time. It's all rather silly, Kaedrich. I think it's all rather silly.
And what you say about places too, it could be just a natural energetic nexus point, like what we call the conjuring house. Doesn't matter what spirits are there. There's just going to be a bunch anyway, because that's just a nexus. There's just some places that have a massive amount of energy and they're going to draw spirits in. So you can cross over all you want, but somebody's going to keep showing up and coming in and having some fun there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But don't get me started on the Conjuring House. My God. There's a number of people who are listening tonight, and you mentioned Conjuring House, and they're like, oh God, here you're gonna get Greg going again on the Conjuring House. So we won't, don't worry, folks, we won't get into it. Or at least we won't get into it right now. We have about 6 minutes left. I wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned, you saw The Exorcist at an early age. I did too. I might even been younger than you were when I saw it. Not that it's a competition, but I win. So just kidding. My question to you though, Kaedrich, is it exorcisms? They're not really like that, are they?
There was a great series on haunted movies or cursed films, and they did one on The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And Mitch Horowitz is on there. And he just said the best thing in the world, that after The Exorcist came out is when people started to show the same signs of possession that was in the movie, the flopping around, the cussing, the puking, the having that kind of thing. But before The Exorcist, that's not what possession looked like. And in my years of working, I prefer to call it spirit release. Sometimes spirits get attached for many reasons. Sometimes it's completely benign. Usually it's a family member, a loved one, just continuing on saying, hey, I'm going to, mom saying, I know better for you, for your relationship than you do. So I'm going to take over here. And so the release work is done lovingly, compassionately, reminding them, hey, you died and you're kind of causing problems here. And it's time to go. And there's help. Here's where you get the help. Here's how you get that help. But no, a lot of times what we see is the exorcisms in movie and the possessions in movies is non-epileptic seizures brought on usually through chronic trauma.
Yeah.
And so something else has to be resolved, not blaming the victim by saying, well, you were bad or whatever, and so the demon came into you. No.
Do in your spirit world, do demons exist?
They do, but they don't. They're human created. They're like egregores. They're those shadow beings that we generate with our own shadow energy, that we give name, shape, form. We talk about what they are, what they do. And if enough people believe in it, then we create them and they do exactly what we tell them to do. But if we go back even to demonology, classic demonology, the 72 demons that are found in the false hierarchy and those old demonic books were deities that were around before the Semitic religions. They're Macedonian, Canaan, Babylonian deities that were then demonized and put into the Catholic tradition and say, nope, these are demons, when before they were just beloved, benevolent deities of a precursor religion.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, in the human world, there has to be there has to be evil in a sense, right? I mean, evil in the sense to try to guide people away from doing bad things.
I think that may have been sort of true-ish. I really think what we call evil is a form of psychosis. It's a mental problem. It's something wrong with the brain where there's no empathy. There's no connection to the pain of others. So they do what they want. And of course they hurt people, and that trauma causes more hurt people that go on and hurt people. I wouldn't classify it as evil, as more of an illness that's not treated and dealt with that hurt a lot of people, and that can carry over to the spirit world. Like if a person has done enough horrible things in their lifetime, they carry that shadow energy with them, and they continue into the other side as we might think of as a dark force entity. They're still a person, but they think they're so bad that they just have to continue on bad. But I wouldn't say it's evil more than a mental illness that really needs help. Okay.
Very interesting. And as we're starting to kind of wrap up here, we have about 2 minutes left. One of the things in the book, Coexisting with Paranormal, free book, go to Kaedrich.com, and 51 pages. It says in there 10 rules. What are rules? I don't mean what are the rules, but what do you mean by rules?
These are more like guidelines, more like techniques or things you should understand when interacting with the paranormal. Like similarities attract and perpetuate, so that you stay in a positive state. Have fun with it. Don't get too serious with it. It's a coexistence process, meaning you can't remove yourself as the observer from the equation. So these are sort of things to understand when you're interacting with the paranormal. That way, a Ouija board is no longer a scary, terrible, awful thing, and now it's just a piece of wood with letters on it, but you become the tool that makes it work. So it's a better way of understanding how the paranormal functions and how we interact with it, rather than, there's no punishment for breaking these rules, of course. These are the things that you need to keep in mind when interacting with the paranormal, so that you have a good, positive, real experience with it.
Going through the book, looking at the rules, that the one about have fun with it is one that stuck out to me. I'm creating words tonight. I'm so excited. It stood out to me because, I think that we do lose sight on that, that we do need to have fun with it, and you can have fun with spirit as well. And there is nothing better than that, I think.
Absolutely. Like when my wife and I do seance, we're having fun. We're laughing and playing through the whole thing. We don't have the somber, morose, sad, spooky kind of seance. We're having fun with it, and we're laughing and having a good time through the whole thing. And we have a great experience and great results from it because of that.
And that's just it. People may not understand how much spirit interacts back with that, and they have fun with you as well.
Exactly. I mean, if on the other side it's supposed to be great, they're having a party, they're having a good time, why would they want to come over here when we're being all spooky and morose about it? I mean, spooky's fun. Don't get me wrong. The spooky aesthetic's great, but that's part of the fun, right? So if they're having fun over there and we're having fun over here, why would they want to come out and hang out together?
We got to end it there. Kaedrich, thank you so much. Go to kaedrich.com to download the book. We'll be back tomorrow with Refined Divine. Everyone have a great night.